Turn the value up, turn it loud. Miami's pride, make us proud. CanesWear crew, you hear the crowd. Hurricanes ain't backing down. Every play, every score. Raising bets and raising roar. Rocking orange, green galore. All for one and one for four. We got FTSN, taking names, winning again. Podcast fam, till the end. Tune in, now let's begin.
Hello and welcome to the CanesWear Podcast 2025 edition, Season 2 on the FTSN Network. Like and subscribe to the FTSN Network. Tons of great programs on here from Bobby and team, so check it out on a regular basis. It's great to be a Miami Hurricane. We're back. I'm with the two All-Stars. We're with Geo Milian, the famous one, and the famous two is Miami Mando. Armando, how you guys doing today?
What's going on, guys?
I'm doing great. I wouldn't call myself famous, just semi-famous.
Listen, we're all famous. You guys are famous to me. That's all that matters, okay? And I'm famous in my own mind, so there you go. Okay, so it's just ask my wife. Just ask my wife.
There you go.
So it's exciting times. It's 2025. It's March. That means spring football is here. It always seems like football, of all the sports, especially college football, we wait for it. We say it's 8 months away, 7 months away, countdown, and then all of a sudden it's here and it's gone. But it's March, and really with spring practice right now going on, and it's a couple of months. They start doing it for real, and it goes by so fast. So we're excited. So Gio is going to take us through spring practice a little bit, and we're excited to hear about what's going on.
Yeah, it's fun times. Hope springs eternal for spring football. You know, you're undefeated in the offseason. You're the offseason champs. You're winning on the recruiting trail. You're winning in practice. There's no L's yet. Everyone's happy. I will say, though, one of my biggest takeaways from the early portion of spring practice, we're 4 practices through. Tomorrow will be practice number 5. Team is fairly healthy this time of the year, which is a little shocking and surprising to some. You know, just the past 2 springs, Miami's had guys having cleanup surgery for shoulders or knee cleanup surgery or whatnot. Most guys are pretty healthy. Some guys that missed the first week are already practicing this week. So the team's in a really good health right now. I think they're a much more well-rounded team this year. I've heard saying this multiple times. I think the roster is like, I think it's just more meat on the bone there. There's a little more depth, considering that they've made on defense, especially what I've seen and told from the private portions of practice, that the cornerbacks, it's be a very, very step up from what Hurricanes fans saw just a year ago.
Well, that's good stuff. We definitely need the defense to be stepping up. Before we go on, I want to say, if you go ahead and make a comment today, we've got a couple today already. We're going to pick one person with a comment. Could maybe the best comment, maybe just the person that interacts the most. We're going to pick somebody that goes ahead and give them a $25 CanesWear gift card for anything in the store. Just remember, we are sponsored by CanesWear. I actually have the shirt on, guys. And the Spot South Florida Fan Shop, of course, all your Miami Hurricanes items, your Florida Panthers items, Dolphins, Inter Miami, so all your South Florida sports teams. So put your comments in there, and we're going to pick somebody at the show for a $25 gift card. Good anytime, never expires. And thanks, everybody, for joining us. Mando, what are you most excited about this spring?
Obviously, Gio just touched on the secondary. I was actually reading up on it last night. Something very exciting for sure, Poiser, etc. But I've heard from people at practice via text, phone calls, and seeing tweets. I can't wait to see Mr. Trader play football in the fall. Everything I'm reading and hearing is like superstar. So
really,
can't wait. Gio could probably speak on that better than I can, but everything I'm hearing and seeing and reading.
So Jojo Trader,
he's next. Yes.
He's your key guy.
He has. I always try to teeter on the side of caution when I hype up players or whatnot, because, like, for example, over 2 years ago, before George really became like a consistent playmaker, I told people, I think it was the first year when Gap here with Mario and everything. He was great that spring, phenomenal, electric, making plays. Got hurt right before that season, got suspended too, and then played in that A&M in College Station. You see, only receiver pulse there, and he broke his hand, and his season was basically ruined. And people were telling me, they're like, "Oh, what are you talking about with Jacoby George?" But people saw it the 2 seasons after. So I always try to be cautious with this, but he has all the makings to be a wide receiver, power four team for a college football team that is going to try to compete to be in the playoffs and obviously advance too. He has all the making. Even a year ago at this time, he was impressing a lot of at practice. Some wonder, they're like, "Oh, why didn't he over Sam Brown last year? Sam had his issues, or why didn't they get him in the rotation much more?" It was very simple. He was actually dealing with an injury last year, so he had a little shoulder issue going on during the season. Finally got healthy for the bowl game. You saw how confident he was when he got in there and played with Cam Ward. And I think that touchdown was just like, it was very key for him is getting that out of the way and saying, like, okay, yes, I could play at this. I'm here. Now, spring, he's put on about 10, 15 pounds from last year. He's much more confident in everything that he's doing, and it's a prime opportunity for him. Now, I'm not saying that, Miami shouldn't go in the transfer portal and get another receiver, but as long as Josiah Trader stays healthy and stays on the track that he is on right now, can be a very key component to that game this year.
That's awesome.
And I'd say, especially obviously after losing your top 3-4 receivers, even more so.
So we've got, before I comment, Tommy, yes, thank you for checking in. We do have plenty of those sizes available in the store. Quite a bit. It's on the website or in the store. We do carry quite a bit of that size. And hope we should have several different options in stock right now. Welcome back to you also, 305 Sports. And we got B-Dub out there. Geo, he said your connection is not that good, but I think it's a little bit better right now. And the lovely Stephanie is out there as well. All right. So, Geo, who else do we have a receiver? Now that we're on receiver, we're talking about Josiah. You told me it was a Malachi.
Yeah, well, you got two guys that are kind of banged up right now who would figure to be in a starting role this year, and CJ Daniels, transfer that Miami got out of LSU and was with Liberty the year prior. Very productive guy, actually one of the best in the country in terms of contested catches and just low drop rate as well in the SEC compared to other wide receivers in that conference. He's a little nicked up right now. Expected to miss some time this spring. He'll be back for fall ball. Nothing very serious. Something that was just lingering from the end of the season with LSU. But two guys that are really pushing each other right now. A lot of people tried to write off Ray Joseph coming into this spring. And I had talked about this with Amon last week on our very own show. Before really started to come out, and Ray had like a really, really good day right before they went on spring break too. I told people it's not like Ray is not doing the right things. Like, it's not like that he's not practicing hard or he's not putting in the extra time or whatever. Like, people see the pictures and the videos of Malachi Tony, stuff like that, staying after practice or coming into practice, catching more balls. Ray had been doing stuff like that since he was a freshman. Now, more for him, got competition with Malachi, and they're both making each other better. Like, for example, Malachi, he was like the whole top first week, and then Ray, right before he catches a screen pass and takes it 80 yards to the house. It was the talk of like the team right spring break, and then you hear Mario talking about him on Tuesday when they came back from break, and he's like, yeah, Ray Ray's having an incredible spring. So that competition right there is really elevating that room, like regardless of who ends up starting, because Malachi Tony is just well advanced. He's not your 16-year-old kid. I said it from day one of spring practice. I said, yeah, everything he does is intentional. There's no movement when it comes to running. It's just crisp, very well advanced for this stage of where he's at in college football and only 16 years old. Because, like, you look last season, Ryan Williams with Alabama. That guy was a 16-year-old kid playing against 19, 20, 21, 22, sometimes even 28-year-old men if you're playing 7, 8 years.
A new day of college football, exactly.
Wonder who that was.
So, do we have enough size at the receiver position? Because how tall is JoJo? How tall is Malachi? How tall is Ray Ray? They seem to be on the smaller side, correct?
JoJo's about 6'1", around that range.
Okay.
You also have Nair, who's flashed out there. He's worked with the first team too. Your four main guys that have worked with that first group during spring have been JoJo, Nikar, Ray Joseph, and Malachi Tony. They've mostly gotten a lot of the first team reps. The other freshman that doesn't get talked about a lot, but he has made some plays early on in camp is Dalen Upshaw, the kid that they got out of Alabama. And I know they're excited about Joshua Moore, who's like 6'4". He's massive compared to the other wide receivers in the room. A little bit more on the side, needs a little bit of seasoning, but you can see that the tool there.
Anyway, sorry. You still talking, Geo?
No. I just finished my point.
All right. So we've got
that was like an awkward 8 seconds of silence.
An awkward pause. It's definitely an awkward pause there. That's what happens when you're on live TV. Let's see. Somebody asked, who is it? Luca asked about what has surprised you the most in practice so far in the 4 practices in, Geo? Has anything really stuck out that you said, wow, this totally took me by surprise? I've really got to do a little more research on this.
Anything that's taken me by surprise, I would say the amount of size that Chris Wheatley-Humphrey has put on from last year. You're talking about a guy that was maybe 6 foot, 170, 175 pounds as a running back a year ago. Looks like a completely different player this year. Other guys that kind of shocked me are Malik Bryant. You know, he made that move from linebacker to defensive end last year. Mm-hmm. Still had to get a bit bigger. Now he looks like an actual defensive end. Cole McConaughey's put on some really good size too, that freshman they had last year. And then I would say Justin Scott looks like a SEC type of 5-star defensive tackle Hurricane fans have been asking for a long time. And he's been playing like it early in camp. He's been very consistent throughout. I would say actually when they had some of those pass rush drills and run block shedding drills as well on Tuesday morning, the most consistent of anyone. So there's been a lot of competition in the defense line room too. Like Justin Scott emerging now. Armando Blunt is a guy that just internally, like what I'm hearing from people involved with Miami side of things, super, super excited about him. Like it's carried over strength and conditioning all the way into spring practice. Been told that like when they talk about him, he's the type of guy that 100% in every drill, no matter what he does. And you know, Mario's one of those type of guys that he's always drilling. How you do anything is how you do everything.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
So just surprises there.
No, Mario. Every week during the season he's on with Joe Rose. So he came on recently for I guess before the spring, or during the spring. He was asked by Joe about Blunt, and he spoke literally about 3 minutes nonstop about him, glowingly, like everything Gio just mentioned, and then some. Like they're expecting a lot from him, and they're very impressed with him so far.
Well, were Blunt and Bryant both 5 stars, or were they 4 stars? Because both of them were rated high, I remember.
Was a 5-star. He also reclassified too. So Blunt was a 5-star, and then you also had Malik Bryant. He was like borderline high 4, around 5 as well.
So those are two solid studs that we should be able to. They'll get a lot more playing time this year.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Great.
they will definitely be very involved there. I don't know if Blunt start, but he's very much in the mix to play quality snaps. And then Justin Scott, I'd be shocked if he's not starting.
Awesome. Going back to the offensive side of the ball, I mean, a lot of people, including myself, thought, while Cam Ward was spectacular and the best quarterback in the nation, hopefully will be the #1 pick in the draft, and the Hurricanes left something on the table with the running game. It seemed like, especially in the Syracuse game, the Syracuse game, the Georgia Tech game, obviously the bowl game, it seemed like Martinez, Fletcher, especially Martinez at that time, could have he once he started going in the season, they could not stop him. It seemed like he could have ran for 7-8 yards against Syracuse. What they call back a 40 or 50-yard play. It was at the game, and it looked like that nobody could stop him. And I know we wanted to get Cam the ball more, get Cam the yards, get Cam the possible Heisman. But do you think the Hurricanes this year are going to be looking at running the ball more? And how are we set between the running back position and the offensive line?
I do think they will run the ball more this year. I think big reason why is because you have 2 running backs returning like Mark Fletcher and Jordan Lyle that will be, if they're not the best duo in the ACC, they're right there, top 2 returning next season. I think also everyone gets really focused in and honed on the wide receiver aspect of things with the team, and rightfully so. You know, you got to replace 4 guys, but I think a lot often is going to be
yes.
As long as he stays healthy, he's going to be a massive playmaker for this team this year. That is one thing I'm very, very, very confident about.
Yeah,
Elijah Lofton, you said? You were breaking
Yes.
up. You said Lofton, right? Yes.
Yeah, I read yesterday they were talking about using him possibly like in a David Njoku type role, in that type of sense.
Well, yeah, David, or could it be used? Who is it? Bowers? Who's the guy that went to the Raiders from Georgia?
Brock
Bowers.
Bowers.
Brock Bowers. Yeah. So is that the kind of guy? Is that the kind of tight end he could be?
Kind of some similar role to that. There's a little bit of differences between the two as prospect. Some people internally believe the guy behind Lofton, who just came in this spring, Brock Schott, that in some they think like his ceiling could potentially be a guy like Brock Bowers. If that happens, we'll see.
Schott
came from Indianapolis.
That was a great name. Brock Schott. So what kind of size does he have?
He's about 6'3", I think, from what I recall, about like 230s, maybe tipping 240s right now. He's flashed in spring, but they're excited about Elijah Lofton. And then the transfer they brought in from Tulane, Alex Bowman, everything that's been described to me about him is just super consistent. They're really happy about that. Mario's really big aspect that, you could be one day, but we need you to be good like every day.
Oh, that's awesome. Because what was it like the year, not last year, but the previous 2 years, the tight ends disappeared. Arroyo disappeared, others disappeared. They just didn't even use them. Last year, they could have used Arroyo, who would probably be a #1 draft pick. I mean, a first-round draft pick could be. I mean, it looked like we underutilized them again last year. They could have thrown it to them all year long, it seemed. Do you think we will make a concerted effort to throw more to the tight end this year?
I do think so, because you see a lot of that on the tape from when Carson Beck was with Georgia. Is what he's very comfortable with. I will something that you did ask before, though, that I didn't get: the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not as good as last year, they should be better. Just a slight better. One of the biggest revenue this spring is Ryan Rodriguez is finally healthy. He's having his best spring of his career, and he's really taken a stranglehold on that left guard position. I know people thought maybe Matt would just walk right in there and stay with his spot. But there's a real connection going on there. And you got guys like Francis Mauigoa and Markel Bell cross-training between left and right tackle. So that's not exactly set in stone either. They're trying to look for their best mixture.
So how many deep do you think will go on the offensive line?
Well, I think right now they have about 7 guys that could realistically play or start. And then there's others that, they feel good about. But again, you just kind of have to, like, I know they still have high hopes for a guy like Samson Okun, but it hasn't exactly all come together yet. Or they really love the body type of Tommy Kinsler, but still a little bit raw.
All right, cool. Going back to the message board, I think that's Eric, is Lido Kane. Eric, I thought I answered that, but if not, I will get back to you. I thought I did follow up with you on that. Who else do we got? We got, is Rodriguez an upgrade over McCoy? That's coming from Blue. What do you think about that?
If he's an upgrade, well, he did the starting position against the Florida game last year. He just got hurt near the end of that game. They kind of traded series early on until Rodriguez got hurt, and then McCoy started the rest of the way out the rest of the season. So I don't want to say for sure yet because we're just so early into spring, but the early returns has been that Ryan Rodriguez has had the most consistent spring, and he's had injuries, so it'd be great that if everything all comes together now and he stays healthy. Hey, another actually, he's been healthy this spring and some work with the first team. It surprised some people. Chase Smith, he's been around with the program for a while now. Yeah, he's not wearing the knee brace anymore either.
He was supposed to be a stud.
Yeah.
And they're saying that Geo, that Mando is looking like top 10 pick good, is what I saw the other day.
Really?
Yep.
Yes,
I've seen that in several places.
Yeah. Right now.
Oh, Mauigoa on the offensive line.
Yeah, offensive line.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if we're talking about Kiko. I got thrown out there.
No, O-line.
Francis is a beast. Francis is a beast. Great kid. Yeah. Both brothers are great. Hassan asked, should Miami keep going after Tristan Keys or put more effort at some other top receiver? We don't want another Jeremiah Smith saga waiting at the altar.
Yeah, I think they should put more time into other receivers. Keys was very interested in Miami. There was a lot of big schools in play. It was never a guarantee that he was going to go to Miami. I know there was positive buzz recently, especially coming out of his visit. But again, when you're going after these national recruits, you're not going to land every single guy. You will land some. You know, you get your guys like who could be a freshman for Miami this year as a pass rusher. We'll see. But pairing it up practice earlier this week. Now they're going to be getting to full pads at the end of the week, and we'll see. But, I agree with that sentiment that they should continue to cast their net wide at receiver. They've targeted some guys from Texas. They have some local guys. They have some guys from Northern Florida. They're actually just set up a visit with a wide receiver that's like 6'4", 6'5" from the west coast of Florida in the area, and Jaden Powell, who they've been recruiting for a while. So I think they'll be fine. I do know that just behind the scenes, they're very like dead set on we need to land like a 5-star type of wide receiver this year. So you look at guys like Calvin Russell locally, or your Tristan Keys, or guys that they're at here. They need to bring in a 5-star caliber wide receiver in this class.
Yep.
Awesome.
I know Brett brought up, which I knew he would, to open the season here on the podcast, the Syracuse game. I'm like totally stunned you brought that up. But so obviously I know we, even on this show and other shows out there, people have, and Canes fans have always said, you know what, we should have run the ball more. Well, to me, if you make one stop in a series, maybe early in the game, maybe we win the game. Or we're not talking about, we're not playing hindsight's 2020. You know, you had Cam Ward. I had no problem with them throwing it over and over and over again. They couldn't stop us. We just couldn't stop anybody. So hearing Geo talk about the O-line and obviously Lyle and Fletch, obviously Beck was a big acquisition. But of course, I want to ask, with all the transfer portal acquisitions on defense, the coaching staff on defense, to me, there's going to be a greater emphasis on the run. Yeah, Beck's going to sling it. He's a veteran. He's not a rookie quarterback, but what are we expecting from this defense? Obviously, it's not going to be hopefully as bad as the collapse late last year, but I want to hear about the defense.
Yeah, so here's how I view it. And from what I've seen, just the early and this is let me take a step back. Before practice started, I figured to myself, no way that this defense can be worse than it was last year, especially on that back end with that secondary, because that's about as bad as it gets for Miami Hurricane defensive back. And I'm sure all three of us have seen some really bad ones, like the ones that had Rodgers and AJ Highsmith and Mike Williams, a transfer from Wake Forest, was a 2-star recruit, and Carlos Armour, and all those guys that people want to remember stages of Hurricanes football. They're very real things, because he was a phenomenal high school player. I don't know what happened along the way, but even the era of like when Gervin Hall was back there, like, it was just disastrous levels. So they went really aggressive in that portal. They also had landed a pretty good high school class, and they're super aggressive in this recruiting class for defense. Quite a few guys that are like top tier. You're talking about Camden Portis or Jalen Waters, who's arguably a top cornerback in the country in next year's upcoming recruiting cycle that'll be here for next season. But talking about the current team right now, so Charles Brantley, that's a guy that people know his name. He's going to be one of the leaders of that backfield this year. He could play the boundary and he could play the nickel. They have a situation on their hands. Is it going to be better to play him on the boundary or the nickel? Because he's a really good press man. It's very impressive. Xavier Lucas, a lot of people talked about it before spring. Oh, he should play safety or whatever, because we already got Damari Brown and we got OJ and this and we got that guy. And, I think there's a very strong possibility that Xavier Lucas might be the best cornerback, like NFL prospect on this team right now. And I know some people may think that's crazy because we just had last year who was a freshman All-American, and now he's getting thrown in mock drafts everywhere for 2 years from now to be a second-round pick. But, Xavier Lucas, at least in terms of a size, physicality to speed aspect of the game, I've certain plays. I've been told scenarios that have played out in practice. Our defensive back actually look back for the ball and fighting for the ball, because I know Hurricane fans pride and about that for you. That like guys, they're not looking for the ball in the air. They're just with their back turned. So encouraging things with the cornerbacks. Damari Brown's healthy now, practicing again. OJ's a small little nick up, but he'll be fine. I'm just more concerned with the safety spot. I think they'll be fine. Safety, it's Zachariah Poyser. He's a guy. Like he's going to help them. He's definitely a steps up from what they had last in Mish Powell or Jaden Harris. You're talking about an all-conference from moving up to the P4 level. So there has to be some understanding that there may be a little learning curve there. He may not be a all-American player for Miami, but he can be an all-conference guy, potentially make the NFL in the future. That you're talking about, that talent being raised, competition being put in the room. You just have young guys behind, like Dylan Day. He's caught the most picks of anyone to open spring. Actually, I've actually lost count. I think he has like 4 or 5 already through the first few practices. Zaquan Patterson's a little nicked up right now. Chris Ball set up, and you have young flashing like Amari Wallace, who looks aggressive in pursuit drills. Chris Ewald he's practiced back and forth between cornerback and safety, and a guy that Hurricanes fans may not even know about or realize that was on, because he kind of gets forgotten. Isaiah Taylor, Jason Taylor's son, he's healthy now. He was actually out for season last. double shoulder surgery. He was a solid for the Arizona Wildcats before he transferred here.
All right. That's positive. Canes Cats Head Heat 305 is asking about a couple of things. Who's the new baseball commit? Do we have a new, just switching gears for a second?
I'll be honest with you. It is very hard, like more deeper, finer in terms of the baseball program when it comes to recruiting. I would love to talk to the right people to get that to the right channels, and that for that to become more prevalent. I think the baseball program really needs that. I brought it up before. Sure, who the commit is. I will say though, good win against FAU, especially off that series that just happened over the weekend, and now we got Florida State coming up this week. A really hot Florida State team.
Loaded with pitching.
I've been a little critical of the baseball program. Let's see how this weekend shakes out. You know that they need to do a fair shot.
Absolutely.
Things were looking very gloomy after the weekend. They pulled it out against FAU, and they lost to FAU a couple weeks back.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He also asked Canes Cats. He asked also about Luke Nickel. Is it really not looking good for him? I think it's early to say if it's good or not. But what do you think?
It's too early to say. A reason why I just got here in this program now. Still needs to put on a little bit of size. He's obviously smaller than the other quarterbacks. You think about it, Emory Williams is about 5'6". Judd Anderson's pushing 6'7", and then Carson Beck is somewhere between size of Luke Nickel and then Judd Anderson. You talk about 6'3", 6'4" range, and Luke Nickel's probably on a good day, like 6 foot, maybe 6'1" quarterback. He's much smaller than those guys, but hey, we've seen quarterbacks that are very successful at that size. That's Cam Ward, but Cam Ward was just barely 6'1". He was listed 6'3", but his combine came back with 6'1".
Yeah, really? I thought he was bigger than that.
Yeah, no, it'd be surprised. So
After hearing those sizes, I think the new basketball coach Lucas might have a few recruits that they have to look at.
That's right.
Quarterbacks are huge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, that's right. We have the new basketball coach from Duke. That's exciting times. Breaking away from football for a moment.
So what did Cam measure? 6'1", you said, Gio?
he measured 6'1" at the combine. It was like
I thought it was a
6'1"
full
and
6'2". Wow.
it was 2.5 from what I recall.
Okay.
All indications.
He put on
It looks like
cleats and
Tennessee's
whatnot.
going to take him.
So the what is that? Bell. You mentioned how Bell is doing, right? One Manuel asked about
Yeah,
that.
so Markel Bell and Francis Maugnaud, they're cross training between. They have a couple guys behind them too that are like S.J. Alofaitula that they brought in out of Bishop Gorman, and Cavilla, the center brought in last year. They have both of those guys working between like center and right guard, kind of rotating. I noticed that during practice. They're training guys, in which they did some guys like Jalen Rivers before, and Matthew McCoy. Before Matthew McCoy was playing guard last year, he spent like his first year or so at tackle. So they move some guys around, try to get what they think is their best place, and they go from there. But I will say, though, Mando is in much shape than he was last year. He's one of those guys that he's reshaped his body. Even Moten on the defensive line, he mentioned on Tuesday that he's dropped, I think he said it was like almost 20 pounds since last year. You could see it in his face.
Yeah. Now, I was going back and forth yesterday with the self-proclaimed Korean Kosel, Steve Kim, and he brought up I think he tweeted about it as well, special teams. That was a bit of an issue last year, and obviously now goes without saying we lose Borregales, etc. How do you think special teams? Because that was kind of a question mark late last year.
And a question mark every year, it seems.
Yeah, they gave up about 2 kickoff return touchdowns. Came very close to giving up almost 3 last year. So it's have to get better. They have the punter returning back there with Dylan. They have good gunners in terms of special teams from last year. Like they had guys like Darius Hayes, like those guys really flash. Hopefully you get something this year. Some of your freshmen like Amari Wallace or Chris Ewald, that they've both flashed a little bit, that you get some guys back there to help you. Or Kellen, the freshman linebacker, he's got a real into the mix for playing time this year too. But in terms of full special teams scope, though, you have Abram Murray returning back as kicker. He got some reps last year, and some of those, I know he played. It was FAMU, played against Ball State as well. They had him do some kickoff stuff. He kicked a couple of field goals as well, some extra points too. They're excited about. He was one of the top kickers in the country. But I know some people may be traumatized to go back to Jeff Fiegel's son, that he was all world coming into college.
I remember, yeah.
When the lights came on and he started playing at Hard Rock on the road, he was shanking punts left and right.
It was the most mystifying thing ever. It was, I remember, it was crazy.
Yeah, no, and the crazy thing about it, I actually learned something recently from a guy that played with Fiegel's son on the team back then. They said, yeah, no, he was booting things 60, 70 yards down the field in practice, and then we got day. It's like he was a totally different player. So
wow,
sometimes
the yips,
yeah. So that's why sometimes I'm cautious about like when somebody's starting to show out in practice, because you have those scenarios that you never really know. That like game day comes and guys are not quite the same. So this is why you hear that always a Green Tree All-American, or is he a game? Does he show up on game day?
Yeah.
We've got a new coach, obviously, on the defensive side. What are we feeling about him? I mean, I don't blame the coaching staff, Guidry, as much as some people do, because the year before, we were a lot better as a defensive team. So I think it was a combination of the players and him, the scheme. There was something that didn't click. But what do we feel about the new coach that just came in?
My early impressions, it seems very intentional and intense backers group. I've noticed that he's worked very hands-on with that group. I can't speak for like game setting or simulated scrimmage setting. They haven't had a scrimmage yet. I know that's coming up soon. I'll hear what the returns are on that. But two things that have stood out: just intentional teacher type with the line, very intense. And you can tell press conference, everyone pictures now of like just the eyes, like he looked very serious.
Well, that's good. We definitely need something. He's come over with some good credentials. He's a little bit younger, correct? How old is he?
I recall he's like early 40s.
Early 40s. So young man. I mean, well, how old was Guidry? 50s?
He was 50s, yeah.
Yeah, because when he came over from Marshall was a top defense, correct? They were like dominating.
Yeah, actually, the story behind it too, he's going to Tulane, and then Mario poached him from Tulane because like he signed a contract and everything with Tulane, and he was like, all right, you want to come coach the defense at Miami or whatever? And yeah, he had a really great defense at Marshall, but again, you do bring up a great point though, Brett. The defense was better that first year, but I also attribute it to the fact of they had better players, safety back then too, which is a point you brought up. You think of guys like Kinchins and James, and mind you, this is part that I hate, but her do this, that they'll say, oh yeah, the next guys, for sure they're going to be better. They're going to be better than All-American like Cam Kinchins or an all-conference player like James Williams. And it happened way back during the Manny Diaz era when they had Shaq Quarterman and Pinckney. Mm-hmm. They were really good linebackers that, oh, Shaq can't cover or Pinckney can't do this. And then you saw linebackers after it and they realized, man, like we really missed these guys.
Correct. So, yeah. Everybody takes them for granted when we have them. It's like everybody wants to go ahead and think about how good guys were how much better we're going to be. But, you know, when they're on the field, that's one thing about the fans. I think the fans in general, you know, appreciate these guys while they're here. You know, you never know what they're going to be in the NFL. Who is a quarterman? Who is it that it's been around? There's been several guys around in the NFL for a while. Speaking of NFL safeties, the Miami Dolphins picked up Artie Burns, who was a first-round pick of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So hopefully he can revive his career over here. I wish the Dolphins, being a Dolphin fan, I wish the Dolphins would get more Hurricanes. And we've had a great history with Hurricanes. You know, so I mean, we've got Jalen Phillips. I guess Braxton Berrios is left. We've got Artie Burns now. Do we have any other Canes right now on the Dolphins? I'm not sure.
Well, I think Berrios is gone, no?
Berrios is gone. He signed another deal, which is good. I'm glad for him. Didn't work out. I thought Braxton would have a better opportunity here, but it just didn't seem like it was the right mix at times. But he did have a fun time with Tyreek and the end zone celebrations, and I think that was worth it for him.
Yeah.
What do we got? Someone Blue says Cam. One thing about him is the 9-inch hands. If I recall, a lot of great quarterbacks. I assume he's talking about Cam there, right? He's got large hands. I remember Brett Favre, other quarterbacks. That's a huge thing in the NFL. I think he's going to be great. Speaking of the Dolphins, I'd love them to package a 1 and a 2 in this year and a 1 and a 2 next year to get him, because I do think he is going to be maybe not the next Pat Mahomes, but he's going to be the closest thing to it.
There was talk before that Tennessee was definitely, because they have many holes in the roster, that they were going to trade down, but now it looks like they're definitely taking them. So we'll see.
Yeah, so it's when they talk about taking a defensive end, you know, there's so few quarterbacks in the draft this year, and teams miss all the time. But then you look at what the Redskins got with Daniels, so phenomenal.
Yeah, no, Ward's a monster. I will say that DN from Penn State, he's serious. That guy. That guy will be a day one superstar.
I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will. But you know, this game.
No, you're not passing on Cam Ward. You're not passing.
Exactly. At least I hope they don't. It was.
This comment brought up here from YouTube from Blue. He shares here, like Megatron in practice. That is true. Don Rich told me a story. There was an entire practice where Evidence and Joker looked like he was.
Jerry Rice,
be like a top 15 pick, and then he had an injury, and then he just wasn't the.
What you were mentioning about Fiegels is 100% correct. I mean, it probably tends more towards baseball, but Brett, you know, there's baseball players in the pros that have had like meltdowns in the field. Like, there was a pitcher of the Cardinals, Rick Ankiel, a couple of years ago.
I remember that
superstar lefty. He comes in a playoff game, he's throwing it like Rick Vaughn, like 10 feet above the catcher. And the next game, the same thing. He never recovered ever again.
They say it's like
it was crazy.
Guys get in all sports. It's in the head, and it's happened. When I was young, it was a guy named Steve Blass. All of a sudden, he was awesome, and then he came back and he couldn't throw strikes anymore. And it happens to players. And what was the guy? The running back was it Curtis Johnson or so for the Tennessee Titans? It was the same kid with Chris Johnson for the Tennessee Titans. Is it Chris Johnson? Who did we have last year as the running back that just transferred?
Oh, that was Chris Johnson. Yeah,
Chris Johnson.
Chris Johnson, AJ Allen.
He was a beast, and all of a sudden, he couldn't run after that. It's like, you know what? You got to have it to be have a great career. You have to have, you know, the head has to be working all the time, and football players especially. That's going to be this.
Few bring that one up. That was good by Geo, because few bring that up. That Fiegels one is, if you look back, that's one of the strangest. It's very odd what happened there.
Sometimes you just don't know until you get on the field. I'd like
exactly.
Or as an example that's just happening in real time in the NBA. Look at Ben Simmons.
Oh yeah,
looked really good on in his career. The fans started going after him.
Yep.
Never mentally. It hasn't really been the player since it happened, and then they got rid of him, ditched him, and he's been bouncing around in the league now. He hasn't been the same player.
Stealing paychecks like that guy. Oh my goodness.
I know the amount of money. That's the thing with guaranteed contracts.
Wow.
Guaranteed contracts. You just keep on getting the money. So what else do we have coming on? We've got the Cane, obviously, spring practice. When is the spring game again?
Spring game is April 12th at Cobb Stadium. That's the track and field right there on campus. Santa Maro Drive, 5821. Believe, from what I recall,
Blue said Chuck Knobloch got the yips. Absolutely, he did get the yips.
Yep.
That's probably that's
That's a good one. That's a good
yes,
one.
I remember Steve Sachs had it. I think I remember a Met catcher had it. I mean, couldn't throw the ball anymore to the pitcher. I mean, it was just you start to think
Oh,
about
Mackie
things too much.
Sasser. Mackie
Did
Sasser, right?
Mackie have that problem too?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's I'd like to say that's what derailed my career in all sports.
Gio, what time did you say the spring game was again? The spring game was at what time?
From what I understand, I believe it's supposed to take place at, I believe it's supposed to be like 3 or 4 in the afternoon that day, from what I recall.
One thing I wanted to ask, and obviously it's been I think the Texas coach was asked about it, and he's not doing it. How do you guys feel about some programs not like totally doing away with the spring game? They're not having it.
I agree with it entirely. Like I get it from the perspective of poaching going on now in college football, that teams are watching film or just actively scouting their very own roster to try to take players off.
Right.
I get it from the coach perspective. I don't think you should entirely cancel your spring game, but in terms of spring broadcast, like in the past, I think it is going to become a thing of the past, unfortunately, with the
well. That makes sense. The new, because there's a lot of guys we're talking. I mean, hopefully not a lot of guys we're talking about, but what percentage of players after spring practice the portal opens again, right?
Yeah.
And what is the time frame for that portal to open up?
So as soon as their spring wraps up for each individual school, they get about a 10-day window to hop into the portal.
So everybody gets 10 days. So do you think, what kind of movement do you think a team like the Canes, how many guys do you think we're going to bring on, and how many guys do you think we can lose?
Well, based on what I've seen and then what I've been told from the private portion of practice, yes, it's encouraging that they have talent from the young wide receivers that are in that room right now. Joe Trader stepping up in his second year, Malachi fans, Ray, really things starting to click for him now. Nikar even flashing a bit too. Yes, it's exciting with those young guys, but I think you have to go and get yourself some insurance at that wide receiver spot. That you brought in CJ Daniels. He's not really a number one type of guy, more of a possession wide receiver, but a solid number 2 that you could have as an X wide receiver. Competition going on at the slot. You have to bring in someone that could play on the outside or in the slot, that moves the needle, that has production, real production against top competition, at least minimum one of those guys. And then I think maybe you potentially bring in another one that may be a depth piece just to be on the safe side. Like, again, potential is a very scary word. It's a very scary word. Like, it's exciting. It's scary too, because you really don't know what you really have until you get to game day, and then bullets start flying and getting hit, and guys are scared to get on the field. You really don't know. So I think for sure you have to get one veteran wide receiver with real production and a depth wide receiver. I know they're in the market to potentially get some more guys for like the second or third team unit of the offensive line. They still want to continue building that out. I think they need another defense for sure. I think they have some guys in terms of some of the vets around for a bit, and Justin Scott stepping up, but I just don't think there's enough like mature experience that's played enough games like how they had last year. You had a whole row of having guys like Simeon Barrow, or you had Marley Cook or Anthony Campbell, like guys that played a lot of college games, mature bodies that have been in the trenches. You need that. So I think they definitely need another defensive tackle. I know they're in the market a weak side linebacker. They have the linebackers kind of cross training right now. Saint is, it's still kind of up in the air. Is he going to be a weak side linebacker? Is he going to be a Mike linebacker? Are they going to keep Popo at Mike? They're really excited about Cam Pruitt, but they want a little more insurance there in terms of experience, especially after losing Kiko Manoa to the NFL. And I think without a shadow of a doubt, it's non-negotiable. You need to bring in another veteran safety. you have to secure that defense backfield this year, because really what destroyed Miami's season last year was your defensive backfield. Teams were able to throw at will across the entire field. So I just think those are those key spots. And then if you can, a depth piece at running back. You really only have 4 scholarship guys right now. I look back to Mario Cristobal's first season here, where Miami had guys in and out of the lineup with injuries at running back. They had to bring in walk-on from UC and Lucius Stanley, if people remember that, just some years ago. So you don't want to be in that situation again.
Mario did mention recently when he was asked what was one of their downfalls late in the season with defense, he mentioned health, especially in the secondary. They were hurt bad. I mean, I'm not breaking news by saying that, but he just flat out said it. We were hurt, and it crumbled back there. Yeah,
absolutely. I know when Mario came on, he wanted to build the size of this team. We said it'd take a few years. Do you feel this team has the size to compete with the teams in the SEC, the Big Ten? Do you think, and the depth, do we have the size on the lines now to compete with the teams that have?
I like where they're at. Like, if I said in terms of the offensive line from left to right, like your first and second unit, I think your first unit could most definitely compete with the SEC lines in terms of line. I think the second group is somewhat getting there, not exactly, not as deep as some of those teams. Defensive ends, they're very deep. There's young guys, but there's guys that are really emerging. Defensive, you have starter level types that are there, but I still think they need to build out that depth. What is great, that a surprise guy and a freshman like Jay Simpson, who's really young, that came in, but no one expected him to be as good as he's been coming in. Now, if he could help the team this year, we'll see. The full pads will come on soon. They've been in shells and spots recently, but again, I would say, like, the starting units, yes, they can compete in the SEC. I think across the board and on your that your team use exactly yet, like your Georgias or Alabamas or LSU's that recruit intensively with O-line and D-line year in, year out. Yeah. But I do think Mario's going to get them there, though.
But, okay, so we've got Mario and Mirabel. I mean, that's what Mario is, a specialist in the offensive line, being an offensive line himself. What is it? We year 3 or year 4 now? Year 3, correct?
Going on year 4.
Year 4. So if we're not there yet, okay, not to knock Mario or anything like that, I mean, we've had a whole cycle. When are we going to get there? Nobody should be able to recruit as good as. I know there's a lot to do besides just recruiting now. Money is involved now that wasn't involved before. But shouldn't we be at that level? I know we're not an SEC team. We're an ACC team. What we are, Mario's been known for being the best recruiter or one of the best recruiters in college football. So what do you think is holding us back from being there?
I don't think anything necessarily per se that's holding them back. I do think a very real thing that some Hurricane fans may not realize, your classes now, talent have moved up. So when people talk about last year's class, like, some people were really disappointed with the class. And I try to explain to people, from a talent perspective, like the blue chip ratio perspective of talent brought in last year, it was actually better than the prior classes. Like, you didn't have your massive names like your Francis Mauanyoas or your Armando Bull, like that. But it was concentrated with higher end talent, just not as many guys in that same class. So people looked at the ranking and thought, oh, well, we're not top 10 this year. That's a failure. When actually this class that they just brought in now is a very good chance of best one that they brought in through all 3 cycles that Mario's had to recruit. It's just like the quality over the quantity. Look at the number in the ranking, like a cookie cutter situation. Oh, we're not top 10. We failed. Now, what kind of went into that too what I mean by recruiting calendar moving up now, guys are committing much earlier, and it's hard. It's really, really hard because Miami tried their best to pull guys off from other schools. Like you had guys that were deep in with LSU or with Oregon for like that they were trying to get them back off their commitment. And the thing is, in the NIL era now, it is a little bit harder to get guys to flip unless you're willing to overpay or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's based a lot on the success that team had the year prior. So I think what you're seeing now, you're seeing a lot of profile guys really interested in Miami this year. They just had number one on attack leave campus within the last 4 hours in Jackson Cantwell. They, even though out on Tristan Keys, who's one of the top 3 receivers in the country, was just last week. They have the guys coming in and visiting, and a lot of that comes from the season that they had with Cam Ward. People think automatically, oh, well, we're going to be really good this year. If we go X and X record, we should land XYZ guy. Doesn't exactly work that way. Well, at least not anymore, because the timeline has moved up much quicker. I mean, this year we have taking official visits in May. A couple of years ago, that wasn't even a thing. Guys weren't official visits summers until a couple of years ago, and that was more so for July. Now July is a dead period for recruiting, and guys are taking their it's like the first, second weekend of May already. So they're just much quicker now.
It's changed so much. It's crazy.
No, it is.
I'll tell you who would have killed it in this era, even though he was with North Carolina and now he left and Bill Belichick is over there. Mac Brown, when he was at Texas, he used to have a system that he knew like who top kids, and he would get them all rallied up and in the like a year time. Like it was, if he was at Texas and still had that system and things are working now, that guys are committing much earlier and the timeline has moved up, man, he would have made a killing. He would have made a killing with his recruiting classes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so hopefully in basketball, going back to moving sports with Lucas, we've got a young guy that will be able to, be able to recruit and stick with these the young guys. I think the coaches like Coach Allen, fortunately, Saban, a lot of older guys. Also, it's a different game completely. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to run our show every single week. We're going to have Geo, and we're going to have Mando. We're going to have Cliff, who's missing today, and he'll be back next week. And we look for all of you to join us for our prize. I think I'm just going to go and the group has voted in the back room. We're going to give our $25 gift card to Juan Manuel V today. He is the winner of our $25 gift card from CanesWear. So you can go ahead, if you're on X or on Facebook or anywhere, just go ahead and message us your information, and we will go ahead and get you that, email you that gift card. Okay. Did you guys have any last minute comments? I don't know if anyone out there knows there's an NCAA tournament starting tomorrow. The brackets are happening. To a lot of people, it's the most exciting time of the year. I think Thursday and Friday are possibly the 2 most exciting days in sports, with 16 games each and upsets. Now with everyone's had their brackets. Now you've got your Hard Rock Bet if you're in Florida, or your ESPN. If anyone's ever heard of them,
a lot of people calling in sick the next 2 days.
The next 2 days, there's a lot of people calling in sick, so it's exciting. I'm saying as an upset, I'm looking at Drake as an upset team, not to go all the way, even though I do have them at 500-1. Hoping to get to the Sweet 16 and bet against them.
You would.
That exactly. So I'm liking Drake. Clemson, I think, is going to be a tough team. Clemson is going to be a tough team as well. Those are a couple of my teams looking for Clemson. Could lose to McNeese State. Drake, I think it's going to upset Mizzou. You guys got any upsets for this weekend?
I'm not going to lie. I haven't seen 1 millisecond of high point basketball, but everybody's saying to take them plus 8.5 for some reason. Okay. So I guess I'm taking High Point plus 8.5.
That is how funny it is. It's like, I don't know, but I'm going with High Point. I've never seen them. I'm going to go for one step. I've never even heard of High Point.
Well, here's one. Everybody, and me included, obviously, nobody thought North Carolina should be in. So naturally, what's going to happen? They won yesterday, the day before. Now they face Ole Miss, and North Carolina is a 1.5-point
Yes,
favorite. So
they're
a lot of
150
people
to
are
1.
on UNC right now. So I would probably be on UNC in that game also.
They're 150 to 1 to win it all. So I'm not going to say I took them.
I think you just did.
By the way, there's a comment. There's definitely a comment that I agree with 100%. So from YouTube shared here, anyone but the Gators. I'm with you, Blue.
Yes.
But the Florida Gators. It make
I
me
will
want
say
to
this.
vomit if they win it all.
I'm kind of like, it's like, because there's two things I can't stand in life. It's like anything the Gators and Duke basketball. So if they face off in the final, I don't know what the hell.
Yeah. I think Duke's very solid. Both teams are very solid, but I did see something that where the Gators are a heavy favorite. The sports line does their thing. They play the game 10,000 times on the computer. Every time the game comes out very, very close. So I'm not saying I'm sure
You never
Florida will blow
know.
them
All
away.
it take, the great thing about that tournament, as we know, it's not a 4-7, 3-5. It's
That's
that one
exciting
day.
stuff.
If you shoot bad or don't defend, then you're gone. That's it.
There's
That's what's
nothing like
the great thing
seeing
about
those
it.
Cinderellas win those games. Last year we had a few upsets, so it's always good to see them when it's not your team.
There's 3 guarantees in life, guys: death, taxes, and a 12 seed beating a 5 in the March Madness. You know what's happening tomorrow. it's like every year. It's like, come on.
Exactly. So it's gonna be exciting stuff. Geo, where can we find you besides the CanesWear podcast?
Oh, well, we got a weekly show, me and Amon Richards. It's called Who Wants Smoke. You can find us on YouTube.
Good show, too.
On X.
Good show.
Or you could also just find a personal account on X at Geo Milian. You might be able to see it on the screen, anyone viewing here. But yeah, be back with practice tomorrow again. Practice number 5 of spring. Pads coming by the end of the week. Scrimmages coming. So like the Rusi stuff will be coming out. I'll be getting some feedback from that as well. So it's going to be exciting.
Awesome. So you're excited, and we're excited to be following you. And Gio's got a lot going on besides his podcast. He's got his Discord. He's got a lot going on. Guy's busy 24/7. So try to pick.
If only he knew more about. If only he knew more about the team and stuff. I mean, he just doesn't.
That's exactly.
No knowledge. This guy. He doesn't know what's going on.
Mando, he can't compete at our level, but that's a different story. Mando, where can people find you? Tell us where to find Mando best.
Well, other than chasing 5-year-old twins, which I put one of them to bed like 2 minutes before the show. My handle's at Lakers Canes 305, and huge Canes fan, obviously, but just thinking about that Sunday night at Hard Rock Stadium, August 31st, getting goosebumps, man. That's gonna be
exciting.
It ain't no cream. It's not a cream puff to start the season. We got UF a couple weeks later, so we're gonna find out real quick what this team is.
I got mine in that game if Notre Dame doesn't find a quarterback between now and August.
What do you think the likely?
I'm hearing the early returns from Notre Dame that they have a quarterback right now.
That they do have their quarterback? Oh, okay.
All right. So
I will say this: I can't stand Notre Dame, but I like their coach.
I love their coach.
Legit.
When who was it? Kelly that left? Where did he take the LSU job? And when he was left with nothing, and I actually was rooting for them that game. I just, the way it went. I mean, I know people hate Ohio State and people hate the Gators and people hate the Noles and people hate Notre Dame. I mean, every year to me is a new year, and just want to beat everybody on our schedule because, frankly, I want us to beat Notre Dame and them to win every single game the rest of the year. I mean, I know some people don't believe in that philosophy. I want to beat the Gators and then the Gators to win every single game of the year. I mean, if we're still winning, if we lose, then that changes. But as we found out, strength of schedule is everything. So if the Gators would have ran the table last year, frankly, we still, we maybe had a chance to get in. Who knows?
Yeah. So
I root for the teams that we've beat. I think I'm out of that. Speaking of shirts, CanesWear, we sponsor the show. We're here live. We are open 7 days a week. You can find us at CanesWear.com. We've got tons of new stuff in. We got cold weather, warm weather, lots of great items. We got the great reversible starter jackets. I know it's still a little cool in some places, and it doesn't matter if it's hot or cold. You're always cool when you're wearing that jacket. We've got Florida Panther items right now. The Florida Panthers hopefully going for back-to-back Stanley Cups. We've got all the Inter Miami. We've got Messi jerseys. So we've got quite a bit of things going on there. We've got some signings we're going to be working on very soon. Here's what I'm going to do for you for the next till tomorrow. I'm going to put a promo coupon on. I'll set it up right after the show. Till tomorrow midnight. Anybody that sees this, okay, today's Wednesday, till Thursday midnight. If you go to Geo, Gemo with Mando, Gemo 25 till tomorrow, 25% off anything in the store for anyone watching this podcast. I'm not promoting it anywhere else, but just go Geo 25. It's easier. Geo, sorry, Mando, you're out. Geo 25, Geo 25, save 25% off our entire store. And I'll put a coupon code out there in about 15 minutes after the show. So starter jackets, jerseys, cam wardrobe, whatever, the whole entire store, 25% if you're watching this podcast. And it'll be on for the first till Thursday at midnight. Closing comments, guys? You good?
No, I think we're good. I'm excited to see what Coach Lucas does for the basketball program as well. I'm hearing some good things about the recruiting front early on. Hearing some better about certain familiar connection there with a Pittsburgh guard that just entered the transfer portal. So there's
a guard that just entered. Do we have any chance? And where's he at now?
He's at Pittsburgh.
All right, cool. And he's entered, and I'm sure he's going to get his share. Do we have any chance of the Boozer brothers?
No.
No. You see,
everyone's hopeful, but
they've already got their money, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm excited to see because, this tournament's fun, but it's a heck of a lot more fun when Miami is a prominent figure. We got spoiled for 2 years going to the Elite Eight and the Final Four. Yeah. Who would have thought? Whose bingo card was it on that you'd say like the most exciting team in Hurricane sports in the 21st? Basically since 2003 or so was Miami Hurricane basketball.
Exactly. Yeah.
The last 20 years, I should say. So guys, remember, thank you for checking in with us. We'll be back here next Wednesday night at 9:00. Remember, GEO 25% off the entire store till Thursday night at midnight. And thank you, Juan Manuel. And remember, FTSN Network. Like, subscribe. Thank you, Bobby, for putting this all together. We had a great time tonight, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Go Canes.
Go Canes, baby.